slow painting on the alleyway. And that is something that Public Works can repaint to keep that vivid so that it's a reminder. One thing that we did discuss was the potential to add one-way painting on the roadway as an additional reminder with an arrow pointing the direction that traffic should be flowing. At the first intersection, traveling down the alley, that's not the right clicker. The first alley that you come to when you travel south on School Lane is the intersection with Church Street. Now just be aware that the footage from the rest of School Lane is from 2011. So you won't see the slow painted, and there are signs that do not show on the footage that are actually in place currently. Here at the intersection with Church Street, there are buildings on two corners. The building on the northeast corner is literally at the edge of the roadway. The signs are right up against the building. There is no give there for any changes or additions. The signage is appropriate there. On the southwest corner, there are actually now one-way signs for both east and westbound traffic. And those can be moved on to one post so that they're more visible and easily understood by traffic traveling east and west on Church at School Lane. If you take note as we travel down through here, there are very few areas that there are not driveways, sidewalks, fences, intersections, houses, porches, garages, barns, sidewalks, parking spaces, you name it. Geometrically, the road just does not lend itself to any physical type of traffic calming measures and the associated and required signage. As we move south, the intersection with Wood Street is currently signed east and west with stop signs, which you will not see in this graphic because they were placed after 2017 when this footage was taken. There is a stop sign with a one-way sign, both for eastbound and for westbound traffic on Wood Street. These intersections, again, the properties come right up to the corners and the sidewalks. And so additional signage or otherwise is difficult to accomplish at the intersection. There is not physical space to put do not enter signs found at the intersections without basically putting signs in right up in people's yards or on the physical buildings. And then traveling south, again, down School Lane, again, there is slow painted throughout along the alley. When we get to Front Street, again, you don't see them, but there are stop signs at this intersection as well. The new stop signs and the one-way signs are co-located on new posts. So they're very visible for traffic traveling in both directions at that intersection, east and west. And there is slow painted just south of Front Street. Again, noting that it's well worn and could be repainted. And then at the end of School Lane Alley at Mayor Ave, there is a do not enter sign. Again, this footage is old. This sign is not nearly this white. It is not, it has lost its reflectivity, so that do not enter sign could be replaced. Additionally, an additional sign, if warranted, could be placed on the left side there, the west side of School Lane, also indicating do not enter, making it even more visible and recognizable to anyone traveling through that corridor. So that gives you a general idea of what we've been able to find as far as modifications that could easily be made to hopefully have some impact. Again, looking at the geography or the geometry moving up and down through that alley. That's about all that appears to be feasible from staff's review.
So having said that, we brainstormed staff and we came up with the idea of possibly shutting School Lane at Mayor, which would be a barricade, what where you're looking now. Which is why we sent the letters out to areas in Royerstown that might potentially use school lane to see their thoughts. This is also a major, not major, but this is a thoroughfare for school traffic going to Royerstown. School children use that, and that was listed as a safety concern for children that use it and actually play in school lane or ride bike. It's a very, very narrow and compact street.
Is that where the one-way traffic or the vehicles going the wrong way were?
I think they're coming out on Wood Street.
So a lot of them, the count was highest between, I believe it was between Wood and Mayor
Okay,
versus Marietta and Wood.
so the count, meaning they're going the wrong way,
Correct.
was
Yeah.
higher, okay. So they're just ignoring the sign right there and going the wrong way to cut through, essentially.
Correct.
Is it enough volume that enforcement can be done, or?
We watched it a couple times during the time frame of which the study was done, which was roughly a week. We recorded roughly 40 vehicles going the wrong way. So over a 7-day stretch, you're looking at just a few vehicles a day that are using it. And it's very difficult for us to be able to quantify whether it's the residents themselves using it to get to some of the other streets,
Mhm.
or if indeed it is actually traffic trying to avoid the intersection of Marietta and Morristown.
Okay.
So the enforcement of it, to answer your question in a roundabout way, would be random and sporadic, and we would just have to be there at the exact right time,
Right, which
which is a little difficult sometimes. So,
yeah. So a couple cars a day and being there, that having somebody sit there for a couple hour period to do.
to maybe catch a
maybe
car or
catch
two.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a good use of resources, so what was the feedback that you've received so far from the?
I received feedback from, I believe, the owner on the right side, as you're looking at that picture. And then at the corner of Wood and School Lane, both were against the barricade. And I
any-
also heard from the bed and breakfast on Marietta and Elizabeth,
Okay.
also against. There's quite a few, but there's not many houses that are on School Lane, but the ones that are there appear to be rental units.
The original complaint that came in, was that for speeding? Or-
Yes.
And they
Was-
wanted speed bumps or something?
Speed humps, yeah. Felt speeding and safety. We took away the speeding issue, but because of the narrowness of the street, there is a safety concern.
Mhm.
Because of what it's used for. Which is more than vehicles.
And so do they fully understand at this point, speed humps are not an option?
I believe the people that I've spoken to, yes,
Okay. And, but they're against closing the street as well.
correct.
Is not an option?
Speed humps?
No, closing.
No, I asked them, they're against closing the street. Just, I wanted to see where they were at, the ones that originally started the whole ball rolling. Okay. Any questions from the board?
Not a question, but my assessment, for what it's worth, is that speed enforcement isn't a realistic alternative. And like suggestions I've made before, I believe if we were to barricade at midpoint with, I believe there are fiberglass or heavier, but not impossible to be pushed aside by even a snowplow or emergency, but not regular drivers, we turn this into basically driveways for the residents. And yes, they're going to have to either go out to the south or to the north, but it'll take the hazard, the risk, the problem away. And we could watch this for a couple months and maybe we would decide then we could take them away and see how long it takes people to realize we've taken them away and they start the bad habits again. That's what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, in this situation, that might not be a bad solution. That'd be a little bit of inconvenience to some people, or maybe all of them, but it'd definitely stop the wrong way traffic and probably the speeding.
Well, there is no speeding issue.
Well, right.
So the study indicated there's not a speeding issue. So just as oftentimes a lot of people come in and think people are speeding, when we actually do the study there, it showed that that's not really happening. So I think the speed humps and the speeding issue is not in play here, but as you take a look at something from 1,000-foot view, you find something else. And, while the complaint wasn't about wrong way traffic, that's what we ended up finding.
Mhm.
So we have a situation where nobody's really complaining about wrong way traffic. We had one resident complain about speeding, and there's really no speeding, at least that we can find. So
Broke.
we have an issue that we stumbled upon that I believe that nobody's complained about so far. And I believe if we take action to put a barricade up or block it, I think it's going to be similar to when, we put up temporary speed bumps somewhere, or I think you'll end up with the whole village of Orrstown coming in one traffic commission meeting saying, what's going on? We've never complained about this issue. I think that's kind of what we're looking at.
There's always unintended consequences.
25 mile an hour in streets like this is different than 25 miles an hour on a boulevard. And yes, there may not be a speeding issue, but yet when people are doing a cut through, they are speeding. They're trying to avoid traffic and they're in a hurry. I was understanding that we had a concern about school students walking and a safety issue. And so that's what my response was.
I think that's what prompted us to maybe look outside the box in the barricade and closing it down, was the safety concern. But then again, if people realize and the residents realize that this is a roadway and don't allow their children to, or watch their children when they're out. But there is really no place to get off the road if a car is coming, or, they just don't mix well. So yes, there is a safety concern. Is it a township safety concern? If it's used for a roadway, probably not.
So is there anyone in the audience from Orrstown that'd like to speak? Sir, could you come up and just give your name? Do we have a microphone for?
Yeah, my name's Harvey Fenstermacher and I live at 2224 Wood Street, which is 3 doors up from School Lane. And I know personally that if I want to go to Columbia Avenue, I'll come down School Lane. If I want to go Marriott Avenue and west, I'll go down and Elizabeth and everything. There's a lot of people that do the same thing. And if you block it, even temporary, how are we going to go? That street has been there for generations. And I've seen maybe a handful, most of the kids come up going to school when the elementary was at the old location. A lot of them now use the, what do I want to say? The off of Elizabeth and Mayor to go down to the new school. So, and if they're coming the correct way and they're walking to school, they will be able to see it and go either one of the streets, and the yards and everything. But if they're going home after school, that's gonna be as different. The traffic can go 5-6 mile an hour and wait for the kids. So that's all I can have to say.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online? I mean, we have another meeting to see if, more residents come before we make a decision. I think, I'm inclined at this point. We did do some improvements with the marking. We can put up another sign, replace the one that's faded. I'm not inclined to close it. I just think it's going to be more headache than what it's worth. And I think the residents are going to be greatly inconvenienced by it. And I don't think the original complaint, was bared out with the speeding issue. And I think just, as we move forward with Warriorstown, in the future, I think we had this problem one other time. Was it a different street? I don't believe I was on the traffic commission then, but I think we had
The
looked at,
same portion of the
Okay.
village.
Mary and
And that's
Elizabeth.
when we added the stop signs that you don't see depicted in some of those improvements.
so I think right now, let's take a wait and see approach, see what happens at the next meeting, but I would caution us on closing the street.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the complaint, it wasn't the complaint that we got, so we'd be fixing something that wasn't really a problem. And I guess with the speeding, it's the same thing, as it seems like they're going fast on that tiny little road there. I would agree that 25 is probably over fast for that lane. But I guess, again, we can't really lower it below 25, right? I mean, that's
It's actually at 15.
recollection is.
It's at 15 currently.
It's not posted, but because of the
Okay.
the alley itself, and that's one recommendation that Mrs. Garber and I talked about, was ensuring that there were proper 15-mile-an-hour signs posted there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be difficult to get up to significant speed there, but I'm sure where there's a will, there's a way. With the sign, do not enter, can we just put a small placard underneath that says wrong way as well?
The photos we've seen tonight are more open at the intersections than what I've experienced in Roarstown. There are some that have some visibility issues, and there is where we did some extra signage,
Correct.
stop signs and
This is-
things the last time we addressed this matter.
This is old Google Earth footage, not,
Okay.
I didn't drive down through and take a video. I could do that for the next traffic commission if you were so inclined.
Anything else on this subject for this meeting? Okay. So we'll move on to old business. I would just highlight for the truck route study that we're adding Broad Street into that
Correct.
in
We're
West
working with
Hempfield
West Hempfield.
Township as well. We're going to work with them to include that in the study. Anything else under old business that the board wishes to discuss?
Well, my wife and neighbors are still out, not happy about Nistley Road. She was out working, doing leaves and raking them out to the street and said it's still a speeding problem, but again, it could be the perception when you're standing right there. So, and we've done speed studies, we've had police presence out there. But there definitely are people that, like, there's two guys on motorcycles that really rip up that street. But it just would be a hit or miss to try to catch them, so.
When was the last time we did do Nistley Road speed study?
Give me 1 second. I can-
In the last year.
For, are you referring specifically to in the area of Bowman? Okay, so we just did one up towards the Turkey Hill.
Okay,
So,
Yeah, I think we did one and then we did a second one after we put in the road painting. Maybe within the year.
I have the.
We did have one near the Turkey Hill just recently, which I did see a car out there, a cruiser. So that was good.
And I think the problem is simply the hill. They're
Mhm.
coming down the hill, they pick up speed. Fortunately, they have to stop at Bowman. But
Yeah.
they are probably
Usually.
going good clip when they're going past your home.
Always get stopped.
Is that a candidate for the speed device that shows the speed?
I think we
Um,
had that there.
We did,
Mhm.
okay,
August of 21 was our last study, so a year ago
okay.
that we did a study.
So maybe in the spring, Mr. Weaver, you okay waiting till the spring to do it again?
Yeah, I mean, I know there's it has to be a rotation that have other issues to deal with, so.
I mean, there is higher speeds, there's no doubt about it. A speed study will just validate that. I guess the question is, what possible alternatives did you want to do to mitigate it? We have enforcement and it's on their radar.
So if we
Is
just-
it successful as far as an enforcement spot?
If we run, it's the two methods that we have to run, if we use an NRAD unit, which is able to get the precise location of somebody, we usually have to do it up on the flat section between Bowman and Knoll.
Okay.
As far as running at Aquila, which would be in the area of Mr. We're able to do that. It has us utilizing V-Spec units, which is the point-to-point lines.
Okay.
So we're able to, the NRAD is a little bit more efficient. So usually up at top of the hill, not necessarily at Aquila is where we're setting up a detail with a couple of cars.
Okay. Well, we'll continue to enforce and we'll look at doing a speed study in the spring and just see where it's at. And maybe it's going to require some other action at that point. Okay. Do we have any new business tonight for the Traffic Commission? Okay. Any public comment for Traffic Commission? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Excuse me,
Could-
you'll need to.
My name is Jennifer Basler. I live at 2725 Spring Valley Road for the past 25 years. It's been a problem forever and a day since we lived there with Spring Valley. I have addressed the board before, and I would like to extend my appreciation for the efforts that have been made. But I live in that middle section between Woodview and Dorsey Road, and that is the zone, that is the speed zone. And if you've ever driven that road, you know that coming up from the health campus, I guess that would be going west, you can't see our driveways, you can't see the homes. I live in one of the cul-de-sacs, so our driveways dip down. And I think people who use that road don't realize that there are homes and driveways there, or they just don't care. I know the efforts of putting in the speed humps, and I heard you say that people don't like those. No offense, but I almost feel that was a setup for failure because they were close together. They were loud. You had to come to a complete stop. And even myself, being one of the people who was pushing to have something done on the road, was like, oh my heavens, what have we done? That being said, the line painting, another good option, but the speeders I see on a daily basis when I walk in the morning, run in the evenings, drive every day. My kids are busy. I'm constantly going. It's the same cars over and over. And even according to your own website, speed tables work. People don't like them, but they work. And as I said, I've been there for 25 years. It's only getting worse. Jacobs Creek, the health campus, the new townhouses, we keep increasing the residents, that are there, but we aren't doing anything to protect the people who live there. And that area is beyond control, unbelievable. You put the speed monitors in. Well, coming up from the health campus, you have visible houses and driveways. Everybody knows the police sit in that church parking lot. You have a sign that says, watch children. You painted 25-mile-an-hour zone, and you have the sign there. They have three things at least that keep people from speeding. As you approach Spring Valley and you are going up the hill, the road starts to narrow. You hit the curb, you see no homes, no driveways, trees. Wahoo, I can see where I'm going. People speed. They get to Dorsey, they slam the brakes on. Coming from the other direction, same thing. You have the natural curves of the road that slow you down. You have a hill approaching the S curve at the horse farm. The speed monitor is at the top where Dorsey comes down, where you're already going slower because you're approaching a hill. As soon as they go down past Dorsey, zoom, they don't see our driveways and homes. And every single cul-de-sac has 4 homes. That's at least 8 drivers, plus children driving, plus, meaning teenagers, obviously. But our driveways are straight. We have to wait for a car to come out before I can pull down. So many times I'm slamming on my brakes as a car's flying up the road behind me, or as I'm trying to make the turn and stay in my own lane. On the other side of the road, the driveways are angled. These people are desperate to get in and out of their driveways without getting hit, especially when the sun, east to west, is shining on whatever direction you are coming. It's very, very dangerous, and it's frustrating. And like I said, I appreciate the efforts. I think things are being done to try to solve the problem, but I truly believe the only answer is 2 speed tables somewhere on that table. And you add to that, the construction on Centerville Road is only going to triple the traffic coming down Spring Valley as the cut through. And I did note in the minutes, as I've been trying to, and my fellow residents are trying to trust the process and give you the time to do what you need to do. I feel that 25 years of fighting this is long enough. And kind of lost my train of thought what I was going to say. But it's just a very frustrating time. And, you know, I'm an elementary school teacher, and I'm always teaching the kids safety first, responsibility, respect. And I know the manpower is not going to be there to monitor that section of road, but it is very dangerous, and we need to be responsible, respectful, and safe. And when we're making these decisions for these dangerous areas.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Is there anyone online?
There is not.
I think the lady from West Hempfield's trying to get her
Oh.
hand up.
Yes, ma'am.
Dawn Flay Hardy, Stony Battery Road. There was a speed monitoring on Stony Battery last week. I'm assuming that was you all.
Yes.
Because it was on the other side of the street. Those things are fine, and I think for people who are respectful of the law, it's a great thing. But we were standing in our driveway watching at one point. There were 4 vehicles in a row going 47 miles an hour. And the first one was a school bus. And that's just the beginning. You know, it's just unbelievable. And you could sit in my driveway anytime. I got 2 driveways. You won't block me from getting in and out. You cannot imagine how fast that traffic is moving sometimes. And with all those trucks coming in and out, and there's only more to come with all those warehouses. I mean, I thank you for the effort, but I just, like she said, I don't see anything changing. We've been at this for a long time.
Well, Stony Battery Road and Spring Valley are totally two different roads. Spring Valley is, I think, a little bit more of a challenge for us in the way that it's laid out. But let's see what happens. Let's see what the data comes back with on Stony Battery. And, we're going to continue to look at it. I think the one good thing that you should take heart in, right? They started the walking path on Stony Battery.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah. So, there are some good things being done there. We're looking to do some road improvements on Stony Battery as well.
That was the question that I had for tonight as well. Do you have a timeline on that? Because we need to once again put up another mailbox. And we don't want to do anything until we know if they're going to widen the road, are they going to move the space back, what?
Yeah, I don't think there's any plan to do any taking or,
No, we're working within the right of way.
yeah.
Yeah. Perry, the status of the widening work?
We just met with West Hempfield about 2 weeks ago, and we're going to start that probably in the near future. And there is some slight widening. It is not much. It may be a foot beyond the edge of the road that's there now, but that's about it. And that will only go from, I believe, Wayside up to Nolt on the West Hempfield side. And then it moves over into the East Hempfield side when it gets from Nolt heading up towards QVC. But it's not very much at all. There is not much to take there because there's a lot of utilities and poles, that sort of things there. And if there are any mailboxes that are too close, they will be moved back by us. We will take care of all that.
Well, that's the thing. We need to put a new one up because it's been knocked over and we're not going to do it until we know what's what. I know the water line is right there in front of the mailbox. So maybe they won't be doing anything because of that. I don't know.
Well, I think you'd be safe to reinstall your mailbox.
Oh, it's up, but
Okay.
it's pathetic. But I mean, but we need to,
Perry, when you say near future, are we looking before the end of the year?
Oh yeah, definitely. We're going to try to get a lot of it done here in October before the blacktop plants shut down. It's not going to take all that long to do. We may get half of it done and may have to do some in the spring before the paving takes place. But we're going to try to knock it out this year yet. But again, if whatever mailbox is there, whether it's new, old, or whatever, we will cautiously move it to wherever it has to go.
well, then I guess we're just waiting. The other thing is in our front yard, there is a storm drain that we do not see accommodation being made for with the construction going on the other side of the road. They even planted a tree by it. So that's something you need to be aware of.
So there's a storm drain on the West Hempfield side
And then it drains to the east.
and
It's
it's
been there
draining.
for 50, 60 years. Yeah.
Perry, are you familiar with how the drainage is on the road and where that's going to?
Well, the house next door to us, when that isn't draining properly, the road gets flooded so bad, it's not even funny. And you would not believe how fast people try to go through that. I'm surprised there hasn't been hydroplanes out into the cornfield. Well, the parking lot at the warehouse now.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the inlets on the West Hempfield side, but I'm certain that if they cross the road, they're connected somehow on our side to go somewhere. But we will double check them as we get down through there with West Hempfield. We'll make sure that.
There's a nice big hole there that drains right into where they're working right now. And it's been flooded. And this last rain was probably the best one we've had since they started that building. And it's still wet right now. So.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have anything else?
Well, getting back to Spring Valley Road, I know we tried speed bumps at I guess the health campus end, and that didn't really work out, but now should we check into a speed table at the other end, which seems to be where the problem is? Or can we get a poll of do you know what neighbors, how they feel about that?
So Mr. Weaver, I think and correct me if I'm wrong, staff, I think the challenge there is the grade. That I guess there's a prescribed method for a speed table. And I think where we're looking at, or where the big problems are, we have a grade issue.
Okay,
Um,
I just thought maybe we could keep trying to address. We keep hearing about the problem and it's just,
It would be nice if we were able to use radar. I think
Hmm.
the enforcement would be a lot quicker and easier. Mhm.
Can you go to the microphone, please?
When you place the speed pumps in, they are thicker and more aggressive than a speed table.
Right.
So if we were able to have them placed because of the grading issue with those temporary ones, how would, and I'm not being disrespectful, I'm just trying to understand, how would a speed table be different if it's a smaller go over?
So my understanding was you were questioning why where we placed the temporary speed tables at the other end.
They weren't at the end, they were in the middle.
But they were down closer to the health campus.
They were actually closer to Chestnut Valley and Woodview.
Okay.
And then they had since been removed. And when I was reading through the minutes, I saw that two residents, one from Westminster and one from Corvair, I do believe, or Cochrane, said something about it interfering with emergency vehicles, which in the 25 years I've lived there, very few that I've seen emergency vehicles go down Spring Valley. They tend to go down 35-mile-hour zones like Marietta or Harrisburg Pike or Route 30 or Route 283, unless they're addressing somebody's needs in our neighborhood. Why would they go down Spring Valley Road?
So the placement, are we able to pull up the map?
And I
They
think-
were placed right in the area of where she is referring to. I think there was one in between your driveway
No,
and the next one, or was it two down?
been close. It was way down by Woodview, in that valley.
Okay.
Those were the locations that were suggested by our engineer when we had him look at it.
maybe
Three.
that's why they were put there because of the grade. that
Yeah,
was-
I believe that's what I'm remembering, is that we can't just stick them where we want to
I
stick them.
understand that. I understand that. But if you look at it, even if you would put the speed tables there as opposed to the speed humps, would help from Woodview to Dorsey.
I don't think the speed tables are the proper application. What the application you're looking for is the speed hump. But the speed humps that we had out there were the temporary ones, and they
Right.
are higher.
Yes.
A speed hump put in per the specifications are very gradual.
Right.
You would not have
Mhm.
the large
Mhm.
that you had with the temporaries.
Right, and they were very close together, like you had to stop, go over one, go 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, stop, go over the other. And it was a cocoon,
Mhm.
which again is the temporary.
Right.
But in place of doing a speed hump, why couldn't speed tables be placed there to at least slow that traffic as they are approaching?
I think
really we should go and get the research, but it's my recollection that we can't, that there's only one device that we can use, and they're speed humps. I do not believe we can use a speed table.
Correct.
I think that is the issue, but let us do our research and get you a correct answer on that. And again, I think for us, what we don't want to do is create another problem
Of course.
with it. So
But
I th-
again, a problem being complained about by commuters is different than a problem being created by residents.
So I don't know, were you here, the meeting? We had about 30 residents from Spring Valley show up complaining about the speed bumps.
Because they were so loud and obnoxious.
Mhm.
Had they been, I'm the one who started the petition, and as Cindy can tell you, I had an enormous amount of support in doing something about this speed. I don't think the way they were placed and the problems they caused is what the result we were looking for. And so then they were taken out. Because as I said earlier, even I could hear them where I live, and I was like, oh my goodness, what have we done?
So you said you were in the cul-de-sac, which I don't think is on.
As I recall, the issue with the speed bumps that we installed previously, drivers, there were some obnoxious drivers who were annoyed by them, and then when they passed them, they peeled rubber, made loud mufflers, were very obnoxious. I think the bumps well, there's evidence the bumps actually reduced the speed. And as we suspected, it's creeping up again. So, this is not an easy solution. I think a rolling hump type of device might achieve some success in this. I'm afraid with human nature and driving today, we're never going to get it stopped. It's frustrating.
It does work on Kaufman Road. By the school. Kaufman, or by the high school?
Get up to speak. So the one,
Board meeting? This is the traffic.
the
commission.
one on, where there's actually two on Kaufman.
Mhm.
You know, I'm actually wondering if they're actually, the one is specifically, in specific, I'm wondering if it's done to specs. It seems bigger than the other one to me,
You know, they work.
but, let us do our research and get back to you and, you know, try to give you a reasoned explanation. We appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Do we have anything else for the good of the order for the Traffic Commission? Okay,
Nothing.
hearing nothing, we're going to adjourn the Traffic Commission. It's 6:49, and we will begin the Board of Supervisors meeting at 7 o'clock. Okay, thank you.